Day 1. Lee Abbott drives into a town and goes to a store to buy oranges. In the store we see rocket space toys. The shopkeeper is watching the news, where an extraordinary bomb in China is being reported. Lee then walks through the street to a park where his wife, Evelyn, is pushing youngest son Bo on a swing. The Abbott family are there to watch a baseball game in which eldest son Marcus is playing. Lee sits next to Regan, his eldest child, and only daughter, who is deaf on the stalls, and says hi to his friend Emmett, who is sat behind them with his youngest son. Emmett's eldest son bats the ball and makes a home run. As he runs to the final base, the crowd and Emmett are shouting dive, as the fielders are close. After this, Emmett asks Regan how to say dive, and she signals a diving motion with her hands in American Sign Language. Bo and Evelyn wish Marcus good luck as he goes up to bat. Marcus misses the first 2 balls, then is distracted by a large meteor in the sky. The game stops and everyone starts heading back to their cars, homes. Regan goes with her dad and Evelyn takes the boys. The aliens are already here though and start attacking the street and killing lots of people. Day 474. The film cuts to moments after the events of A Quiet Place 1. The Abbott family leaves their home barefoot. By this point, day 472 up to 473, Evelyn has given birth to a baby boy. Lee was killed protecting Marcus and Regan from an alien. The house is both on fire and flooding, and Evelyn has just killed several aliens with the help of Regan's cochlea implant feedback noise amplified by a speaker which weakens the alien. Bo died on day 89 due to taking a space rocket toy from the store at the beginning of A Quiet Place 1. The sound of the toy attracted an alien who quickly attacked. Just before leaving the farm, Evelyn tells Marcus and Regan to stay there whilst she quietly heads back into the flooded cellar and tries to stay quiet as she swims in search of an oxygen tank. Meanwhile, Regan tells Marcus she's going back to the house and leaves Marcus with the baby. Regan collects the amplifier and microphone. She uses her clipper to cut a cord off the amplifier. Regan and Evelyn individually return and the family walk along the sandy path Lee had created until they reach the furthest point, and then they quietly step onto the dry leaves and continue their trek. Evelyn and Regan carry the baby in a trunk soundproofed with blankets, and the oxygen tank is feeding a baby respiratory mask so that the trunk lid can be closed. The family reach a wire fence with an opening. As Evelyn walks through, her bag gets caught and a small sound is made. She looks behind her concerned about the noise and unknowingly triggers a tripwire that causes a bundle of bottles to fall and jangle. Evelyn whispers to Marcus and Regan run. Meanwhile, we cut perspective to the viewpoint through a gun aim that has been fixed on the family. An alien starts chasing the family. Whilst running, Marcus gets injured by a bear trap, which he handles silently until he sees his injured foot and lets out a primal scream. Evelyn tries to stop him screaming whilst Regan uses the amp, microphone and cochlear implant hearing aid to create feedback that is unbearable to the alien. Evelyn shoots the alien in the head as it struggles against the sound. The family head inside a nearby derelict building. As they walk round a corner, a man grabs Evelyn, puts his hand over Evelyn's mouth and signals her to stay quiet while pointing to an alien on the ceiling. The man leads the family to a soundproof vault underground. A towel over the latch of the vault reduces noise and prevents the latch locking the door from the inside. He starts a timer on a stopwatch and after a few minutes opens the door to let in air. Once safe, he tells the family they can't stay. There isn't enough food or water. Evelyn thinks she recognizes the man and says, "Emmett," to which Emmett unmasks his face from the scarf and baseball cap he'd been wearing. He reiterates they can't stay. Evelyn asks about Emmett's children and he explains his sons died on day 1. Evelyn asks after Lola, his wife. He explains Lola died 11 weeks ago, that she got sick and they moved down to the soundproof basement of this derelict warehouse once the pain was too bad and she was screaming. Emmett says I couldn't do enough. Evelyn asks if Emmett would see the fires lit by Lee each night and if he knew it was him. Emmett says he did. Evelyn asks why he didn't come for them, since they were friends. In A Quiet Place 1, the Abbott family had not had any contact from anyone and heard no radio signals despite searching and searching. Very few survivors were left on Earth. Emmett explains that the people left, you don't know, do you? They're not people worth saving. Regan signs and whispers you're nothing like him, says to Emmett. Regan goes to her brother who is lying down to rest having had his ankle painfully dressed in the vault to mute his scream. Regan gives Marcus headphones and plays radio white noise to him, scrolling through the frequencies. Suddenly Marcus hears music and sits bolt upright. Regan stops turning the dial and Evelyn rushes over. Marcus whispers music, and Evelyn listens. Shocked, she turns to Emmett who explains yes, it's just the song Across the Sea on a loop. That's all it ever does. Regan signs that he is a liar, telling her mum that Dad would have heard it, he would have told us. Emmett explains that you can't hear that signal down in the valley where the Abbotts lived. He and Lola only discovered it when they moved up here. Regan works out the signal originates from an island nearby, about 1 day's walk away. In the middle of the night she wakes Marcus and they go to the soundproof vault to talk. Regan attempts to convince Marcus to help her find a way to the radio tower by following railway tracks to the coast, then finding a boat. She wants to get to the station so that she can use the station to transmit the high-frequency noise her hearing aid produces that exposes weak spots on the aliens. In this way, anyone, including the family, can use a radio to play the high-pitched noise and protect themselves from the aliens, a significant step towards a better way of life. Marcus is very worried and does not want Regan to go. Regan insists she has to try because that's what Dad would have done. Regan is forced to venture out on her own very early in the morning after Marcus threatens to tell Mom. She leaves a note on the radio saying, "Keep listening." In the morning, after discovering that Regan has gone, Evelyn pleads Emmett to go after her and bring her back. He eventually agrees when Evelyn says that she wishes Lee was here to look him in the eye and tell him Regan is exactly the type of person worth saving. Meanwhile, Regan comes across a train station with a derailed train and climbs aboard the front carriage, which is the only one still on the train track. There are several dead bodies, skeletons. She needs a first aid kit and finds one in the driver booth but struggles to open the door. She eventually reaches the box and takes it, but the skeleton of the dead driver falls on her, causing a fright, and she screams. An alien shortly arrives and Regan is trapped, struggling to hold the hearing aid to the microphone in one hand and operate the shotgun in the other. Luckily, Emmett arrives and shoots the creature. They hide in nearby station office due to fear the noise will have attracted more aliens. Emmett explains he is here to take her home. Regan is not happy and says, "What home?" Regan explains her plan to Emmett and says that before, when his wife died, there wasn't anything he could do, but now there is. Emmett decides to help her complete the mission. Back at Emmett's base, Evelyn has to leave Marcus and the baby to get supplies they require: medicine for Marcus' foot and more oxygen tanks for the baby for when the baby is in the trunk. Marcus is very scared and doesn't want her to go. Evelyn explains his foot will get worse and she can't lose him too. Marcus understands and lets her go. She walks back to the sand path and follows the route she and the family uses to get to the store where Lee bought oranges on day one. Along the way, she passes the bridge where Bo died, where a makeshift shrine is. She touched the photographs, crying, and places her wedding ring on top of the cross. Back at base, after getting the baby to sleep, Marcus exits the bunker and explores the compound. The camera cuts to the baby's oxygen tank, the gauge for which is in the red zone since it is running low. Heading upstairs, Marcus finds a room covered in drawings of Emmett's sons. Behind some curtains separating a section of the room, he finds a dead body, half composed, probably Lola, lying in a bed. This startles him and he accidentally knocks a few objects over, alerting a nearby alien to his location. He runs back to the basement, grabs the baby and puts him in the vault. He then steps out again to grab the stopwatch and radio, and as the alien approaches, he is able to get into the vault and close the door. The towel is not over the latch and the door locks shut unbeknownst to Marcus. By nightfall, Emmett and Regan reach some docks and look for a boat they can take to reach the island. They find a little girl at the end of the pontoon. Emmett goes up to her and she suddenly traps him in a noose. Several feral people appear who tie netting with bottles around Emmett and begin to search Regan for supplies. They take her hearing aid and rucksack full of supplies, then begin to lead her away. Emmett signs dive to Regan. Then he wriggles opens the netting, making lots of noise, and grabs the man who took Regan's hearing aid. Several aliens appear and attack the docks, killing a number of feral people. Emmett is still holding the man and an alien comes to attack due to the noise of the bottles. Emmett dives into the water and the feral man is killed by the alien. The alien then hears Emmett swimming in the water and jumps after him, only to drown as it cannot swim. Emmett is still tied to the dock and struggles to remove the noose from his neck. A small boat comes by and Regan's hand reaches out to him. He climbs aboard and opens his mouth to reveal Regan's hearing aid. They remove the noose and we see their boat heading to the island. In the corner of the screen, an alien is stranded on top of a boat that is detached from the docks during the chaos. Marcus is struggling to breathe and sees from the watch that he needs to open the door. He struggles with the door and eventually, distraught, gives up. He opens the baby's trunk to find the baby screaming. With a pained expression, he starts sharing the oxygen with the baby until he falls asleep. Meanwhile, Evelyn returns to compound with the supplies and hears an alien making a loud cry. She tries to explode the alien by shooting an oxygen tank, but the alien is unscathed. The explosion does, however, trigger the fire sprinklers. The noise of the sprinklers helps Evelyn navigate around the alien and return to the basement. The alien does chase her though. Evelyn hides inside the bunker with Marcus and the infant, with the alien waiting outside the door for them. Regan and Emmett approach the island, where they find a colony of people living normal lives after isolating themselves to the island. After the government realized the creatures could not swim, the National Guard had as many people as possible put on the islands. However, one of the creatures manages to get to the island on another boat and kills several civilians. However, they lure the creature away to where the radio station is, and it follows them inside. The The alien eventually hears Regan and Emmett, slicing Emmett with its claws. However, as it goes after Regan, she is able to change the sound coming from the station from the song to the noise her hearing aid produced, weakening the creature, as she eventually kills it with a pole. Marcus, picking up the signal through the radio, also uses the noise to weaken the creature, shooting it dead, now allowing anyone to be able to kill the creatures.